to after further review.
What is going on, everyone? Episode 35 after further review coming at you here. We are currently watching the Phillies game live. Good luck to Ryan and Chase. No dog in this fight for me, but how you guys doing? You got to be feeling good right now. 6th inning, 7-2. What are your thoughts?
My thought is I got stumbled up on what did you just say? No dog in this fight?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Vick.
Oh,
Is that a saying? I've never heard that saying before.
yeah. You never heard no dog in this fight?
Yeah. No.
Like a dog fight, like a aerial fight.
Yeah, like
okay.
I got no one in this game.
Okay.
Baby, I just randomly connected those two. They could have nothing to do with each other.
I think
Could actually just be from dog fighting.
But yeah, no, I'm drinking a Brotherly Love Hazy IPA right now. I'm enjoying it with my Jim Thome jersey on. And yeah, I mean,
Oh, it's a Phillies, not a Twins jersey.
Jim Thome never played for the Twins.
Oh, I thought he did. That's my bad.
I feel like the playoff series has been playing up to the expectations, and obviously the way the game ended on Monday night, I think Monday night, right?
Yeah, Monday.
Yeah. Was tough, but the Braves, they made a good play. They doubled up Harper, and I don't think that's really on Harper, because if the ball does bounce off the wall, he scores. So that's still one way to look at it. But I'm really happy with the way things are going right now. Hopefully they can keep it going and shut the door on them.
For me, it's just so weird how this NLDS has been virtually the same as the 2022 NLDS. Like the last year before game one and this year before game one, I vented to at least 4 fellow Philly fans of mine. Why is Ranger Suarez starting game one? I love Ranger, but they don't let him go deep in the playoffs. And like Wheeler and Nola could have went. And this same exact thing happened where he went 3 and a change. Like the weirdest thing becomes a straight Phillies bullpen game where everyone's like on the edge of their seat for the next 4.5, 5 innings. And they come out and win that one. And then Chase, like you said, game 2, honestly, the ending seemed like fake to me. Like it was unreal that Austin Riley hits the 3-run bomb and then the 2-run bomb, excuse me. And then the way that Michael Harris, the second, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the difference between the second and junior, but Michael Harris makes an amazing catch to end the game. And I was just like, literally, this pisses me off because it feels like a movie, and I hate being on the wrong side of a movie.
Yeah. And honestly, Wheeler, so go back to game 1. I hated all the moves that Rob Thompson made. I didn't think it was right to pull out Ranger at that point in the game. I didn't really like anything, but guess what? I was wrong because he pushed all the right buttons and won. The second game, I was really happy he left Wheeler out there, and Wheeler threw one bad pitch the entire time, and it was the bomb to d'Arnaud. So, one pitch changed the whole game.
It's crazy. I saw d'Arnaud, I don't know if I read it or I saw it, but he basically said how he watched when he was watching film, he watched every single one of Zach Wheeler's pitches, and he said he thinks that was his only mistake, and he just happened to be the guy that was up to bat.
I mean, he also caught Wheeler. He's familiar with Wheeler. They were both on the bench.
And Lifetime, d'Arnaud has really good numbers against Wheeler.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, they're familiar with each other, so that probably helps. d'Arnaud's become such a good catcher since he left the Mets, so it's just one of those. There's a lot of players years, it feels like, from the Mets that's just as infuriating.
Yeah. Honestly, my favorite part so far is all year long. We talked about last week, Nola and Reese, 2 of the long-term Phillies, and they have the most controversy around them right now. They weren't on the team that, this team's built different, and they were on the other teams that weren't as always good. And there's a lot of, what's going to go on in the offseason. I love how well Nola has performed in this postseason so far. Game 2 of the wild card round, amazing, 7 shutout innings. Game 3, of the NLDS, another great outing, career high in strikeouts. I think he finished with 9, 5 1/3. Pitch count was a little higher, but up by 5-6 runs at that point. Then no need to keep his arm fresh. But it warms my heart, like just seeing him, who's been through it all, have two great outings to start this postseason for the Phillies.
Yeah, I agree. And I dumped on him earlier this season because I feel like the pitch clock was really messing with him. And I think he's made a lot of good adjustments. And just watching his pitches tonight, I mean, he had crazy movement. It's a little bit warmer. It was a little bit warmer at the start of the game. So I feel like Nola just does better anyways when it's a little bit warmer out. So he had all of his stuff working, all of his pitches were going. He had great movement, sliding it around, racked up the strikeouts early, and really tried to like do his best to keep him out and not have it turn to the bullpen as early as it could, because they got to go right back out in 24 hours and do it all again. So
Yeah. And it just made me happier. The Braves pitcher night, Bryce Elder, that's his name. All day, every time I went on my phone, I'm getting hyped for the night's game. I'm looking up things. So all season long, I'm hearing all this crap about Nola. Like people who've jumped on the bandwagon, just started following the Phillies a year or two ago. Nola's inconsistent. Nola's not that good. Nola needs to go. And then on the other side, today, every time I hopped on my phone, no matter where I was at, it was just like, oh, have you heard of this kid, Bryce Elder? Like, oh my gosh, he was the opening day pitcher for the Braves in AAA, and he's so good. Like, I know at one point he was a hot fantasy player for I forget who had him. I think Kabak might have had him, and he was hyping him up. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. Bryce Elder, 6 up, 6 down to start, gets absolutely shelled in the third inning, gives up 2 home runs, a 2-run double to our boy Chase, JT Realmuto. And I was just like, this is the best thing that can happen. You get the starters early, but the fact that everyone I was hearing was just hyping this Bryce Elder guy up. And he could be great for years to come. But that mixed with the Nola, it just wasn't sitting well. And boy, what a great start to game 3 for me.
yeah. And Nola, I mean, he did have those weird things where he would get to the 4th inning and get roughed up, or get to the 5th inning and get roughed up. And seemed like almost every start, wherever he would just have that one inning where he would just give up 2 or 3 runs, or give up a home run or something like that. And he did give up a lot of home runs earlier in the year, but I think the pitch clock had a lot to do with the way he was, because Nola probably is top 5 slowest pitcher in the league over his entire career up until this year. I mean, he works so slow, but he uses it to his advantage. I think he tries to throw batters off, and even now he runs up the pitch clock. So for him, it's been really good, and there's more incentive for him not only to win with this team, but he's a free agent at the end of the season. So he's trying to capitalize on all these things, because baseball's really a what have you done for me lately. So people are going to remember his postseason more than what he did all regular season. And if he can do it well, it's only going to mean great things for him in the offseason.
I mean, while we're talking about Nola and his pitches, I just want to talk really quick because we had Corey Lewis on last week, which still was awesome. I'm still pumped up about it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. We have the clip on Instagram and, the full podcast on Spotify. But yeah, go listen to it if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and first we want to shout out Corey Lewis because he is the Minnesota Twins minor league pitcher of the year, correct? And
yeah,
what an awesome accomplishment. So many guys in the MLB are trying to get to the next level, and to have the fate, knowing the Minnesota Twins, a good organization, they make good moves. They're a playoff team this year, and they're doing the right things. And to know that out of all their pitchers on those minor league teams, it's knuckleballer Corey Lewis that we had on the show. It just makes it 10 times more awesome. Corey, we're pumped for you. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this because over the weekend, my friend Kabak was up, and I was telling him about Corey Lewis. He didn't hear of him at first. And as soon as I brought him up, he looked him up. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. I was like, yeah, it's pretty crazy because he's one of the few knuckleballers in the organization. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know a few players have like the knuckle curve too, but not many. And I was like, what? I was like, don't a lot of pitchers throw a knuckle curve nowadays? Isn't that a common pitch? Or am I way off?
No, I think I think a lot of aces have knuckle curves.
Yeah, I think it's not that uncommon of a pitch. It's not. I mean, not like you said, not everyone throws it, but I think it's not. I wouldn't be surprised to see, 15% of starting pitchers throwing a knuckle curve or
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, but I do feel like a lot of people throw it. Like even just playing the show, I don't know how accurate that is, and
Yeah.
how many times like somebody may have had it 1 year and then they never go back to it. But I feel like a lot of people have it on there, even if it's like their fourth or fifth pitch, they still try to throw it. So
Yeah. So I just looked up some knuckle curve pitchers and some recent guys. Like you had Dylan Betances, Shane Bieber, Walker Bueller, Garrett Cole, Archie Bradley,
Nola.
Zach Godley, Darren Herron, Craig Kimbrell has a knuckle curve, or at least used to.
Maybe that's why I thought.
I think Nola does too.
Yeah, Nola
Yeah.
does, and that's.
I mean, I think a lot of the Phillies do, and I
Yeah.
think Sarah Anthony has one too, maybe.
So I don't think it's definitely not that uncommon, but just see a straight knuckleballer. I mean, he talked about it a little bit with R.A. Dickey, and obviously Tim Wakefield, rest in peace, had a great one too, and it's just pretty rare to have a good knuckleball.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing I was telling Kabak. I was like, knuckle curve, I think a lot of pitchers, it's more of a popular pitch because it's easier to throw. It's not a true knuckleball. But Corey Lewis, we don't know if we've ever seen a knuckleball this fast. And I mean, it's just if he can consistently throw that relatively in the zone and just make him hitters miss with it, I mean, he could. He has a shot to go places, and we're going to be rooting him on every step of the way. But hopefully, he just sat back and enjoyed this moment because that's a cool accomplishment that he earned. I didn't mean to take away. I mean, postseason baseball has been wild. Do you guys want to talk about the other series as well?
I mean, I'll just quickly touch on first of all the Rangers. I mean,
Yeah.
3-0 beating the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles, I think it was what, like 90 straight series. They didn't get swept.
Yeah, 91.
91.
Yeah.
And they got swept by the Rangers this is without Scherzer and DeGrom, which is insane.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, Scherzer might actually come back, I think, for the ALCS on a pitch count, but he might be back.
That's crazy.
But
yeah, I feel like the Orioles, they're definitely not in a bad position. I think they almost outplayed themselves by getting 100 wins, and the expectations, I feel like, got a little bit higher for them. And you're going against a manager in Bruce Bochy who's been there and done that. So I feel like a lot of that translates to their players, and they're just really hot right now. I mean, the Rangers can't miss. They got everyone swinging the bat really well. And the Orioles, I think, got a little bit of the taste of how much the want is to be in the postseason. And it's good experience for them. I mean, they're loaded. They won the AAA national championship. They're not short on talent by any means. And the guys that they have are young. They're only going to get better from this moment. So especially if they go out this year, get a top end closer to replace Bautista, who got Tommy John, and get another starter. I mean, the Orioles can be right back in this position again.
Yeah, that was the thing going into the postseason. I was looking at with the Orioles is they just don't have that starting pitching. I mean, it's one thing to perform in the regular season, but you got to have a guy or two for the postseason. And we talked about it a little bit when the season started with Bochy, and that just that really transformed that team, and that made that lineup even more dangerous. So to have a veteran leader like that.
So the Rangers had the DeGrom injury right away, right? And so like talk about an up and down season, like immediately down. They get Scherzer at the deadline. Now it's like, okay, they load it back up to make this run. Then if you remember in August, they had like that 8-game losing streak right after we hyped them up on the podcast. And we're like, oh my gosh, are they not even going to make the playoffs? Then fast forward to end of August, beginning of September, another ridiculous run to now have a chance to win the division. Get to the end of the season and they completely choke to lose the division. And now they go into the wild card round, having to go down to Tampa Bay, the second best team in the majors, right?
That wasn't scary. They had like 20 fans in the stands.
Fair. That's a separate issue that we did touch on last week too.
Yeah.
Sad. I mean, but the Rays have never had that great of a fan base, but still they had to go down and play the Rays in Tampa Bay, won them both, then go to the other hot AL East team, which neither of the Yankees or the Red Sox. So you have the Rays, and then you have the Orioles, and completely sweep them. And they started off 5-0 after choking not winning their division and having to go on the road for four of the first 5 games.
Yeah. And you're seeing that spending of the money, not this past offseason, but the offseason previously, really paying off now with Seager, Simeon as their kind of big, big contracts at the time.
Yeah. It's crazy that the Astros have made it like the last 7 years or something, last like 6-7 years straight to the championship round. And not saying that the Twins don't have a chance. I mean, they've gone down there and took it to them, and obviously you're facing a team that's been there also and done that. So same thing, like we were saying. And the Rangers, I mean, yeah, they've spent a lot of money, but I think they have a really good blend on their team. They have a lot of nice young players. They have experienced guys like Seager and Simeon, guys who have been to the playoffs before. Seager, obviously, going really deep into the playoffs with the Dodgers before he came to the Rangers. And overall, I think it's a good blend. If you're a Rangers fan, you got to be hyped no matter who you're going to play. I feel like you have a really good chance to get to the World Series, and even taking on the Astros if it's them. You got to like your odds, considering they're potent offensively. Their pitching's been okay, and their game.
Guys, they have a third baseman for the future with Josh Jung and just some guys that are really key pieces that are going to be there for a long time. I just think the Astros, that lineup is just insane. I mean, Altuve is a future Hall of Famer at this point. And I mean,
Alvarez can't miss the ball.
Yeah, Alvarez is an absolute monster. Bregman, who's got all the postseason experience in the world. Then you add like Jose Abreu to that lineup. And this is all without Carlos Correa, who just passed, I saw for RBIs, he just passed Jeter and Ortiz on all-time RBIs list, which is insane. And he's 29. So
dang.
And that's how just what you said about how long the Astros have been in the playoffs and how they keep getting so far. And I saw that and I'm like, that's ridiculous. So the Twins have a tough one coming up. I did see they have Byron Buxton coming back to play for the first time since August 1st. So see if that does anything.
The Astros, I mean, they had the cheating scandal, and they've, the last basically decade now, after being one of the worst franchises for like 20 years, have been completely dominant. Like, is the Patriots a good comparison for them? I mean, I know they're not as hateable as Tom Brady and some of those past teams with Bill Belichick, and I know they've had a little more turnover in recent years. They just reloaded with bigger and better players, but I mean, I'm trying to think of like a comparison because that's crazy. They're about to go to 7 straight championship series. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good comp because you could always pencil the Patriots in for a playoff spot no matter what. It didn't matter which position, if it was number 1 or number 3 team or whatever. You knew they were going to go and be playing January and February football no matter what. And I think the Astros kind of the same way. You can pretty much place a World Series bet on them and feel confident with it the last however dozen years. So I think it's really impressive. And their pitching staff, I mean, we had to go against it last year in the World Series. Framber, Javier, it's a whole run. Verlander back. I mean, it's a tough uphill battle to get past them and get into their bullpen. I mean, you got to deal with that. Plus, you have to deal with their offense, and it's a never-ending battle.
And the Astros have been so sustainable because most of their guys are homegrown, and you have, I mean, Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, they're all homegrown. Pena, and then the pitching staff, besides like Verlander, they're all homegrown players. So they've been able to sustain their success for years now.
Yeah.
And I hate, and Mattress Mac is probably chomping at the bit right now. But
yeah, I saw he has his bat out already.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I mean, it's good for them. And for the Orioles, I mean, it's a good blueprint. I mean, they went and tapped the Astros system, brought in their people to run their organization, and you just hope their cheap owner finally takes the model of extend early and extend often. This offseason, they should legitimately lock up Rutschman. They should get Henderson. All these guys should just be signing extensions right now because it's gonna be better flexibility wise for them. And it's a commitment, and it's going to pay back tenfold, like the money they're going to put out. He's just a cheap ass, so you're never sure what he's going to do or if he's going to trade half these people.
There was a comment, I think, earlier this year where he said something about that, and the Braves should be a blueprint for teams like the Orioles. I mean, look at what they did, and look how long this core of the Braves is going to be around for. It's going to be absurd for the NL East. So, like you said, I mean, and they have guys still that haven't even come up yet with Jackson Holiday and Kierstead, Kauser, I think, like all these guys.
I mean, they could make 2 huge deals and still have a plenty of minor league talent coming up. I mean, it's embarrassing to be like, oh, they have this person. Oh, they have Heston Kierstead. Oh, they have Colton Kauser. Oh, they have
Rutschman is immediately
Mayo.
like first one. Like he should be no
Yeah.
brainer, like 8-year, 150 million and offer him right now. Still.
Yeah, because he will for sure leave if he's not going to get paid. And I don't blame him either. I mean, catcher's a premier position, especially if you have a good guy. He's a switch hitting catcher, offensive minded, good defensively. I mean, he could probably get a deal the same way JT did. I mean, he's going to be worth every penny. He's a leader in the clubhouse. And again, they're only going to get better. I mean, Henderson getting all this experience and learning what it's like to be in a playoff series, have your back against the wall. I mean, these guys are game. They've always done it, even in the minor leagues. I mean, they've always been competing at the highest level. So I think you should just back the truck up and start paying these guys out, because you're going to have to this offseason too. If you want a legitimate guy, if you're going to go get a Josh Hader to replace Bautista in the meantime, I mean, they got work cut out for them. I don't think they're going to bring back Gibby, a $10 million Gibby. I mean,
I could see. I mean, if they decide to spend any money, Nola would be a good fit for them. But I don't know if they would spend that type of money.
Ben, chill.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
No,
would be
I've thought about it too. I was
that
like,
would be
if they're gonna, Nola would be the guy they should go
that would be
after.
good. I mean, Nola could be. You could slot in as a legitimate one for a team, and you know that's what the Orioles need is a guy
true
like
one,
that.
Yeah.
He could slot right there. I'm not saying they're going to spend the money because I could see them not doing it, but it's a team that just won 100 just had 100 wins. And how many 100-win seasons do you get? They didn't have 100-win season when Cal Ripken played his whole career there. So like, you don't.
I mean, you know just as well as everyone else after that last season with the Mets. I'm not trying to harp. I'm just saying.
That was their
like,
fourth or fifth ever 100-win season.
It's crazy.
Yeah. They're in a really good position though, and I hear Orioles fans saying they should have done more at the deadline, but looking back at that point, you kind of want to like build it slowly too. Like, don't just empty out the farm system. Don't be making dumb Angels trades because you feel it. Like, I think the moves that they made were okay. You know, Flaherty, you kind of wish he did a little bit better down the stretch, and you know, would have been a more reliable playoff arm. That I think that would have helped them. Fuji, you know, he has ridiculous arm talent. He just can't locate. So if he, you know, I think it was worth a flyer for them to try to figure it out, because if you can unlock him, he's a guy that's 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So I don't think the moves that they made were wasteful. I think they did it trying to be careful, and they have a good thing going with their young players. And you know, if they can go out and get some savvy vets again and re-up, I think they're going to be in a really good position. And like we said, they went 91 series without getting swept. You know, it's insane. That's an insane stat.
And in the AL East, I mean, that's a successful year. You know, it's tough to see it. I'm sure for Orioles, you know, fans, it's tough to go out like that, but
they still made it farther than every other AL East team.
It's a success. And to do that in the AL East, which is no matter what, it's always going to be a tough division. You're always going to have to deal with the Yankees, Red Sox, and the Blue Jays are good right now. Like, you know,
it's definitely not easy for them, but you got to like the bones that they have in their organization. I mean, it's not like they got there with just a cheap roster and aging veterans. You know, I think Gibby's the only person who's making 10 million or more on their team right now.
That's crazy too.
So everyone, I mean, now
spend some money.
Yeah, I mean, this season, I'm sure payrolls are going to go up. I don't know who's arbitration eligible, so people who maybe just under that are going to go over, but they got money to spend, and you just got there. You know, the window's way open right now. We talk about the Sixers and how the window's closing with Joel, and it's getting even tighter every season. You know, the Orioles are on the way opposite end of that. You know, their door is, you know, a mile wide right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Baltimore, while they're enjoying the success with the Orioles, typically I think when I think of Baltimore, I think of more of a football city than baseball. Just kind of going off that, Chase. Ravens, kind of a tough week. Didn't know if you wanted to kind of talk
wait,
that.
real quick. I actually wanted to ask you guys one other thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know we've been talking a lot of baseball so far. It came back into my head right now. But the Orioles got swept. And I know a lot of people were complaining about it last year. And I have a guy I work with who's a huge Orioles fan who is complaining about it again. I don't know if you guys know where I'm going with this,
Yes.
but like, is the buy a thing, or is that just people making excuses?
I thought you were gonna say reseeding for a second, but
No, people are gonna. I saw people that said they wanted to go back to the 1 game wild card. If you can't figure out how to properly get your players motivated for a week off, which some players would absolutely love to have a week off, that's just on you and the manager. That's
I agree.
yeah. I mean, look at the Astros; they get it every year,
Yeah.
and it never affects them.
They should not be a team should not be gifted wins because they got to buy. They gotta win a game like everyone else. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's more on the preparation. Like
it's more just people being sore losers is what it is. People just like it's just really Braves and Dodgers fans at this point, and probably O's, I guess, too. But
yeah, the O's did it this year, and that's what the guy said. He said he'd rather go back to the 1 game wild card. But that's the other thing, we talk about it every year. Baseball postseason is the craziest postseason, and they have the least amount of injuries, right? Like football, basketball, things can change because of your top star gets injured. There's less injuries in baseball, and it's still ridiculously unpredictable. And I honestly think it's just the fact that there's now 3 wildcard teams. There's the same amount of wildcard as there are division. And all these teams, I mean, the slew of talent across the board. Your bullpen has 2 bad games in a row, or you have 2 starting pitchers have great games. Like anyone has the capability to beat anyone. I hate it as well. I know I heard it from Braves fans last year. I mean, this series, it's a little different. We'll see how it plays out. It's not over yet. But yeah, like you said, the Dodgers, I heard it from some O's fans at work, and I was just like, then don't win 100 games. You should have lost the last series and given the division to the
I just
Braves.
don't get the argument. Like, what do they feel like they should be gifted wins? Like, you got to go out and win a game. Like,
yeah.
the Phillies any team that used their top 2 pitchers like previously.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good because
they dealt with it.
Yeah,
they had Ranger go against Spencer, and he went 3 innings.
The O's is more just how it went. Their games weren't good. They were really only competitive game 1. So I feel like for them, if the Orioles came out and won a game, maybe it wouldn't be as bad. But I think just the reaction of it all is just them wanting it to be, not having such a long bye. But I mean, I would have loved that the Phillies got the bye because it's more time for them. They get rest. All your star players get some time, mentally recharge, get ready for a big playoff series. I think it's just the inexperience of, some of the teams and, put that on the managers too. It's like, I don't know how many of them have gone deep. I think the Orioles manager has been on a World Series team, but I don't know that for a fact.
The one thing I will say about that, and we'd have to do a deeper dive because I don't have all the info, but I do know there's a lot of teams that the manager doesn't do a lot of things throughout the game. Like the managers are told what moves to make based on analytics and things like that. Like the manager does not have a lot of power. Like if there's like the Blue Jays, for example, when they pulled Berrios in that game and he was at 3 innings, 47 pitches, scoreless start. Like I think the Blue Jays front office is telling Schneider to pull him. So we'd have to do a deeper dive, but I think a lot of the managers are kind of losing power as far as some of those in-game situations too.
Yeah. I hate the analytic part of it because I think it's a good tool to back up a decision, but I don't think a decision should be solely made off of that. I mean, look at our past 2 managers, Joe Girardi and Gabe Kapler. Those 2 idiots can't manage for shit, and all they do is rely on numbers, and they make terrible decisions. So it's like you need to have a feel for it too. Like if your pitcher's hot, leave him out there.
Yeah, like Dusty Baker when was it Javier or I forget who was pitching last game, but he was in a sticky situation and he left him out there and he got out of it. But the manager knows the clubhouse, he knows his players. Like it can't just be numbers. Analytics are great. I love the numbers, but there's some things that managers know and that no one else is going to know.
And I think it's a recipe to burn out all your arms. Like if you're going to constantly rotate into the bullpen, like how do you expect them to be solid and sharp all the time? Plus you're giving other teams more information on those guys. You're going to see them more often.
Yeah, the Barrios move pissed me off because you got a guy who's supposed to be your ace. You're paying him over $100 million. He gave up, I think it was like a single. I don't even, or did something, and it was still like three scoreless innings with like 45 pitches, and they pulled him. And it's like, seriously,
Yeah.
this dude you're paying like 120 million, and this is your playoff game, and this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna pull him.
Yeah. I mean, I also have to put Rob Thompson in there. His nickname's Topper for a reason. And sometimes I think he gets a little trigger happy. It's hard to tell with him, but I think numbers he goes back. I mean, he was a Joe Girardi underling for a long time. So I think it's a comfort zone for him. But sometimes too, I think you got to build up confidence in a guy and leave him out there to be tested and show their worth. I mean, you're not gonna pinch it for Bryce Harper, you
Right.
know. But I'm sure some idiot, some ass manager would probably do that at some point. Be like, well, the matchup said he's not very good
Yeah.
against left-hander.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it'd just be interesting to see because I do know that's part of the recent trends with analytics is that a lot of managers don't have the same power to make those in-game moves. So I'd be curious to know. I think a lot of the veteran guys do, but I'd be curious to know what managers are hired because they'll listen to the front office and that type of thing.
Yeah. Now, it would be, I wish they would release numbers at the end of the year and see like how often decisions are made based off analytics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to open up a can of worms. I know we got some other stuff to talk about. I got you two going again, but yeah, ultimately, I agree with both the takes. The buy is a good thing. If you want the buy, win games. If you're really going to be that hard on it, choke at the end and get a wild card spot and get eliminated in that series because that's probably what will happen. And yeah, analytics are taking over. And I mean, I talked to Ben before the game. Baseball is a slower one, so it's you have the time to really use the numbers more in your favor, even more so than other sports. But let's talk some football, Chase.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk. Yeah. This is along with the analytics train because, the Ravens, and it's like you were saying, Ben, you kind of think of Baltimore more as a football town where the Orioles have a storied franchise. I mean, they haven't won in up. I don't even know how long it's been. I mean, probably a few decades at this point since the last time they got a championship. And it's unfortunate because they've had some story rosters, but John Harbaugh is a slut for numbers sometimes, and I can't stand it. And there's plenty of times, like, let's talk about the Steelers game. They have the most accurate kicker in the game, one of the most killer kickers in the game, and we never use them. And it drives me crazy because there's times like when you're playing the Steelers and it's 10-0 or 10-3, you could just get the points, and instead they don't, and then they fungle around, and the center snapping the ball, and Lamar has no idea what's going on. And John Harbaugh always says, well, I think it's a communication problem. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how you can keep blaming these communication problems year after year after year after year in situations where you know it's going to happen. And the I think the Ravens, they had a tough game Sunday. They had 7 drop balls. Nelson Aguilar, don't even get me started on him. He's on my hit list. He can find me on record at WSYC in Shippensburg completely destroying Nelson Aguilar. And now the fact that I have to deal with him every Sunday for the season is killing me slowly on the inside. He was wide open, streaking down the field, had a ball, dropped it. Rashad Bateman had a touchdown pass, dropped it. Mark Andrews dropped it. All these guys consistently. I don't think it's going to happen, continually through the year where all these guys are going to have the drop issue, but it's a game where you had a chance to close them out, and this has been an issue with them over the last year. Early in the year with the Colts, couldn't close them out when they had the chance to. Again with the Steelers, you let them hang around and hang around and hang around, and I can't even put my finger on what the actual problem is. It's not like Lamar did really well. I mean, he hit all those guys on the hands with his passes. So if you take those out, what are his numbers if all those are completions and touchdowns? They should walk out of the stadium, no problem. And their defense did their job. I mean, they held the Steelers as long as they could. The offense just kept putting them in terrible positions. And it finally ended. George Pickens against Marlon Humphrey. Why he was left one-on-one with Pickens, I have no idea. He's their only actual weapon that they have. And Marlon Humphrey's coming back from a foot injury. He's obviously not 100% yet. and he got left on an island with Pickens, who's an animal. He can do it all. He's fast. He can make ridiculous catches. So for them, I mean, it's a tough loss early in the season. The Steelers are now number one in the division somehow, and they're probably the worst team in the division. And
Wild.
the Ravens now have to go overseas to play a London game. And historically, the Ravens are completely ass when they play in London. I don't have good memories of them, especially when Blake Bortles drops a 40 piece on you and they're up by 20 and run a fake punt. I mean, I will forever hate the Jaguars for that moment, and Doug Marrone and Blake Bortles and everyone who was on that piece of shit team who never won anything anyways.
Wait, do they play the Jaguars?
They play the Titans this week.
I was going to say the Jaguars are out there for 3 weeks.
They were out the last 2 weeks. That was already
wild. I mean, they could have honestly just stayed 3 weeks. I don't think anyone in Florida is missing the Jaguars at this point, but yeah, they play the Titans. Obviously, it's going to be a tough test. And looking at the Ravens schedule the rest of the year, I mean, it's not easy. They have a lot of tough games. I mean, you have to play the NFC West, which is no cakewalk by any means. You got the 49ers that are going to come in. You got to play the Chargers at some point. I mean, their schedule to finish out the year is probably one of the toughest ones. Plus, you have to play the Bengals again. You got to play the Browns once more. Still got to get the Steelers again. So for the Ravens, I mean, whatever their issues were, I still can't figure it out. I've been ready to fire Harbaugh since 2017. So any moment they decide to actually do it, I'm fine with it. I've been ready for it. I think he's a decent coach and everything, but he just always seems to have these dumb things where he can't manage the clock, makes dumb decisions, and just ride your kicker. We have Justin Tucker. I can't imagine if we actually had a terrible kicker, what we'd be doing.
Yeah, and you know those games are going to be, I mean, those division battles are going to be low scoring. I mean, that's always how it seems to be. So.
Yeah, we caught the Bengals early in the year when they weren't all together. They dismantled the Cardinals last week. Jamar Chase finally went off, and that's not a good sight for me as a fan, knowing that we got to go against them again. Luckily, all those division matchups we had were on the road, so we get them all at home, but still doesn't matter. If you can't close out a game, you're not going to win any, you're not going to close out the year. And the fact they just don't have that killer instinct right now worries me for going into deeper in the season.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Those AFC North battles are always basically, if you would say how's an AFC North game, it was like that one. But in brighter news, Benny's Jets beat the team that Ben thought probably was going to win a Super Bowl by now, the Denver Broncos, which I was also on that train.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, not a Super Bowl, but we both thought they were going to be at least playoff teams last year and this year.
I thought they'd be, definitely better.
Pretty hot garbage, but not only do your Jets win, but you bet on them and they won. So Benny is
another
now
plus money line
10-1. Ben is 10-1 with his after further review picks. We're 12-5 as a whole. He's 10-1. And hey, the Rams, I mean, I know that they're 2-3, but they're playing a lot better. And right now, they're still hanging in there for that division, so you never know. But
yeah, so the Rams division, I mean, that one's probably going to miss because the 49ers are just cruising. And I mean, that brings me to your bet, Ryan. That did that win? Or
are you talking about how I am now 0-4 in after further review picks history?
Going with the Cowboys money line.
My goal is by the end of 2024 to start positively contributing to the after further review.
The funny thing is your picks are normally pretty good. You're just anytime you've made a pick so far on the show, they haven't been great. Yeah,
no. Oh my goodness. I literally told, our family league in Yahoo, I told Kendra Thursday afternoon to sub in Curtis Samuel into fantasy for Sky Moore. And she's like, oh, he's only projected 6 points or whatever. I was like, no, I feel like he's going to get a touchdown tonight. He gets a touchdown. And I'm like, okay. All right, I'm feeling good. I'm like hitting some stuff here. Come on, Cowboys. And what happens? Still, the overrated quarterback, Brock Purdy, dismantles them.
Oh, I thought you meant Dak. Still think Dak's a guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I gotta know, what do you think is the problem with the Cowboys right now? Or is it just a 49ers problem with them?
So just to break down the season, right? We have 3 insanely blowout wins. Okay. We have the Jets, the Pats, and the Giants, which all three of those teams have not been that good so far. So it's hard to, but they're blowing them out, right? Then you have the weird Cardinals game. I think that was the trap game. So I can throw that one away. So here we go. Week 5 to the 49ers. Chase, I don't know. I honestly think, like, because that whole week, Dak's like getting pissed at reporters and stuff. Like, I feel like mentally in their head, like they mentally can't. I mean, the 49ers this year are probably better right now than they have been. And I know the Cowboys haven't had a ton of playoff success in recent years. Last year was they
Not
had
a ton.
not
Have
a,
they had any?
they literally Brady's last game in professional football took an L in the playoffs to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I think, Chase, to answer your question, number one, it's mentally messing with the Cowboys. And number two, I still am not set on Mike McCarthy. I honestly feel like Kellen Moore got a lot of the blame for all the play calling stuff. And this year, I cannot go 5 minutes into a Cowboys game without hearing West Coast offense. West Coast offense this, West Coast offense that. Mike McCarthy won 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, who's like a top 5 quarterback of all time, and couldn't. I don't hate Mike McCarthy. I like him, but I also know that him and Jerry Jones are friends. I don't know if that's just like giving him the edge. That's giving him all the power he wants. But I just feel like he needs a little bit of criticism. I think some of it's on him. I mean, the play that ended the game last year that everyone still makes fun of the Cowboys on when Dak runs up the middle and slides down, like, I don't know if he drew that up or not, but it was definitely an option, right? So I just think he deserves some criticism. And I think that it's a mental thing, but those games are the absolute worst because it already sucks. I told you guys I hate season-ending injuries. It already sucks. Trayvon's out. And what happens when they get blown out? Everyone just starts giving up. And what does that mean? You're not playing 100%. You're going to get injured. Jordan Lewis, injured. Deron Bland, injured. Leighton Vander Esch, I don't even know the severity of him. That was bad.
Like 4 to 6 weeks.
Something like
that.
It was a nasty block, and his head just dives into Micah Parsons' ribs. But like, that's what these guys just.
He's basically Sean Lee 2.0, just good when he plays, injured all the time.
Yes, except he just has a bunch of sketchy head to neck injuries, literally nonstop.
Yeah.
But that's what happens in these games. These guys get tired, and I was legitimately pissed. Like Lindsay said, like, welcome to being a Cowboys fan. I was testing the waters. Like, I didn't know how much of a fan I actually was. I was so pissed that night. I like wanted to fight like anybody.
I don't understand how you can watch a whole game like that.
I should not have. I don't know. Like, we were kind of just, Kabak was up and then he went to bed and we just turned it on. And
I personally, I'm not a Cowboys fan. You are. I've watched all the games that way, but I don't think Dak's the guy. He's been in the league long enough now where it just doesn't seem like he's gonna carry the team if the Super Bowl is the ultimate goal. I don't think he's gonna be the guy to carry that team.
But okay.
I mean, what's this, year 6?
No, this is year 8.
Year 8?
Yeah, 2016.
So at what point do you say enough's enough? Like,
when do you give him that second contract, that third contract?
First of all, winning a Super Bowl is hard. I'm not giving any credit to Tom Brady at all because they had a lot of good teams, coaching, defenses, all this and that and the other thing. Winning a Super Bowl is hard. 2, How many quarterbacks go their entire career of being an elite quarterback and never winning? A lot. Like, are you like, who are you taking, him or Kirk Cousins?
Taylor.
Dak. But either way, Kirk has been relevant for a long time and has a lot of good years. Like Phillip Rivers, I feel like, is another good example.
Depends. What time does the game start?
Kirk's
1 p.m. Kirk Cousins, I'm taking him all day.
I honestly think, Ben, part of it is the utilizing thing. Like, I just don't know if the Cowboys always utilize Dak to his abilities. Like, I mean, is CD not going off every game because of Dak, or is it because of the system and how they're using them? I mean, I just became a Cowboys fan. My fiance would know a lot better than me, but I like Dak, and I think he's a solid QB. And I think it's so hard to win in this league. You don't move on from him yet. Like, I don't know. Like, they got Trey Lance. I mean, I think this year we're seeing like an all-time low, honestly, in QB play.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think this has been the sloppiest year of football.
like. I'm just trying to think of QBs going off, and for me, it's more the systems. Like Tua is going absolutely off, and I think their system and weapons are nuts. Brock Purdy's having a good year. System and weapons are nuts. Like I don't know. It's been really weird, and I don't.
Yeah. Would you want the Cowboys to make a deal for somebody?
I just like a quarterback or just anybody.
No, like I've been hearing that Diggs wants out, and that's not any different from the offseason, but would you want the Cowboys to be like, all right, 2 first rounders for Diggs? Would you do that?
No, well, the other problem is I'm not gonna get like. I feel like I came in as a Cowboys fan, but I'm like in as a my fiance's Cowboys fan, so I kind of think like her, and she loves all the players, right? So I'm not just. It's hard for me
Well,
right
that's a
now.
recipe for disaster. Just get attached to football players in their 2.5 year careers.
Well, I mean, you're not giving up anyone. Like you're just giving up 2 first round picks. Like,
Oh, you're talking about get Stefan.
yeah, no, get Stephon Diggs.
Oh, yes. Yes,
You
100%.
do
I'm
that in a
sorry. I thought you were
heartbeat.
talking about Trayvon.
No,
Like,
no, no, no. Don't trade it. Like obviously they need something else right now.
yes.
And
No,
I don't
I'm
know what
thinking
that is.
I told Ben Diggs is on Ben's fantasy team. I told Ben the other day, I think, last we talked about Calvin Johnson, like how no one can come close. But I think if you take last 5 years, if you go last 10 years, just group all the wide receivers in the last five, all the wide receivers in the last 10. Like, I think Diggs is the most consistent. Like, it's hard to use the term durable. You think he's number two?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's number one?
Mike Evans.
Okay,
Dude
well,
has like 9 1,000 yard seasons.
well,
and
regardless,
you guys
that's
see
what I'm
that, like
saying.
Jameis
Like,
Winston.
that's what I'm saying. But yeah, so Chase,
I mean,
yes,
he's still a top 5 guy. I mean,
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, like I think the Ravens too. I want them to make a deal for an offensive player. I don't think they're going to, but even if it's Sutton, I obviously Diggs would make the most sense. He went to Maryland. There's ties there. He's worth it. He's worth the price of admission. Yes, I know the 2024 draft class is good, but we're not in a pit like I don't want them to be like, oh, we drafted David Ojabo in the second round. Great. He tore his ACL, and guess what? He's not playing right now because he's hurt. Like they draft all these people and they win the draft and it doesn't translate. So I'm tired of like the draft pick thing.
2 comments for both of your teams. One for Chase. How do you feel if the Broncos started packing it in for like someone like Judy or Sutton to try?
I'm in. The Ravens were actually really close to getting Sutton before they got Odell. So I think that the Ravens, if they did circle back, probably would be Sutton more because I don't think he's going to cost as much. But I'm not as attached to the draft picks right now. I think we have a good base. To be completely honest, full transparency, if the Ravens do make a deal, I think it's going to be for a defensive player again, just because they value defense so much more than offense, and it's going to make me want to pull my hair out. But I didn't hate the Roquan Smith trade last year. We needed a middle linebacker. He was dynamic. He really changed the way the defense was. So if they could get Sutton, and Diggs is my number one, if they could get him, I mean, I think their offense is a lot better. It changes the game for them. It's going to open up the running lane. It's going to get Lamar a lot more, obviously a weapon, but give him space again. So I think to be honest, if they're going to save their season, they got to pick up somebody here and not just some third stringer who's on someone's team, like a Van Jefferson. Like I don't want that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
We need someone like a legit guy.
You don't think OBJ will turn it up at all?
I like OBJ. I'm just worried because he's already been dinged up, and for some reason, OBJ is a volume guy. You got to get him the ball so he gets hot and he gets that confidence and he gets cocky and arrogant. And last weekend, when Lamar tried to throw a back shoulder pass, I mean, Kendrick could have thrown a better back shoulder pass to Odell on that play. The second I saw the formation, hand to God, I told Hannah, I was like, it's going to Odell on this play. He's got one-on-one coverage. Joey Porter Jr., I love the guy, went to Penn State. Yeah, I don't think he's the greatest corner ever. I don't even think he's that good at man coverage. And they threw the ball right to him. And I'm like, no kidding. No shit. I saw this from a mile away, from 100 miles away. I'm in here, I'm not even close to the stadium. And I saw Odell one-on-one. And I'm like, Odell needs this ball. He needs this right now to get this touchdown, jump up and get the thing. It was a terrible pass from Lamar, so Odell never even had a chance. But the fact they don't get him more work is struggling to me. They get Zay Flowers a lot of targets, and that's good, but also he has a history of drops. Like, it wasn't surprising to see him drop a ball last weekend. He did it in college. He's really dynamic. He's a playmaker. He's going to do these things, but Odell needs 5, 6 targets in the first half every single game, no matter what. And he doesn't. He's like, there's times I look on the field, I'm like, where the hell is Odell at? Where is he? Like, but he's that guy. We've all seen him. We saw it with the Giants, with the Rams. The second he starts getting volume his way, he's unstoppable. He literally will just run it up on everyone. Doesn't matter who it is. So it's annoying to me, but also I think another wide receiver would help Odell too, because right now people know that that's their top weapon outside of Andrews. So it's like, beat me with everyone else then.
Yeah, my question for you, Ryan, was just, I feel like the Cowboys don't really use. I feel like they don't use CD as a like legit number one receiver. It feels like sometimes they kind of have him and they put him in positions where he's almost like a slot guy, or like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like they use him as like, he's a legit number one receiver, but it doesn't feel like they use him properly all the time.
Yeah,
like he could be like a Debo Samuel just doing everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Debo.
Yeah. And it just doesn't like I don't think they utilize or maximize what he could do for that offense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm not ready to give up on Dak either. Like, I don't know if it's so hard. I mean, you have to have a good system and a winning culture, and you have to combine the two with also having a good team, right? And I think like Dak, and he's been there 7 years going, this is year 8. So like you can have more of a conversation, but I definitely agree. Like, CD is underutilized. And I mean, you look at their offensive weapons, Zeke's out now. They brought a veteran Cooks. Like, there's opportunity to give CeeDee Lamb the ball. Like, you just have to figure out how to do it. I'm sure he's fine with having a Debo type of role. I mean, he likes having the ball. He's good when he has the ball. So
yeah, I mean, same thing. CD should have the same thing as Odell. He should have 5, 6 targets right away, and they should be scheming him open. Use those tight ends to like draw people down the field, and have CD just go to work in the middle. I mean, he's dynamic, and especially with the ball in his hand, I mean, he can do some nasty stuff.
Yeah, no, and I hope you guys have enjoyed everything we've talked about so far. Just a lot of football, a lot of baseball to talk about. I mean, it's a great time for sports. We're not going to even probably talk about hockey, but hockey just started, and WNBA.
Did that end?
No, it's still the playoff. It's still the championship right now. Game 2 tonight, actually.
Yeah.
But before we go quickly, we just got to talk a little bit UFC, specifically because there's a bunch of breaking news that happened a few hours before we started the podcast. First and foremost, we got Charles Oliveira with a nasty cut in round 5 of his sparring the night before he's about to get on a plane. Now he can't fight. Tough for him. But on the other hand, you got Volkanovski just coming in on 11 days and fighting Makhachev. I mean, that is insane.
Yeah. And their first fight was really exciting. So, Volk, City Kickboxing, they're putting in the work. He was really angling for this fight anyway. So, I feel like he knew. And I don't know who the UFC tapped to be the replacement fighter anyways, but I feel like Volk was training as if he was going to be that guy.
Yeah, well, I saw Gamrot was it's kind of sucks for him. He was the backup fighter for that fight.
Yeah.
But then because Volk came in, Volk got it. So Gamrot's still the backup. So it's kind of unfortunate for him that he doesn't get that fight. But I mean, it's crazy to take a fight against Makhachev on that short notice. He had surgery like 3 months ago. I think like a month ago, he just had a baby. And now he's coming on 11 days notice with going up a weight class to fight for the belt and a guy he just lost. And I mean, he's already fought twice this year, I think. I mean, he's one of the most active guys in the UFC, and I know he's probably number 2 on the pound for pound, but arguably number 1.
And he's got a serious contender in Ilia Topuria knocking down the door for a fight with him too. So I mean, he's got options right now.
Yeah, and I think they were planning to fight in January, and he already said like that's not ruled out or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't put it past him. I mean, the guy's a savage. He doesn't care. I think he's a guy that the UFC knows if you offer him a fight every week, he's taking it.
Yeah.
Type deal. And I think a lot of those City Kickboxing guys have the same mentality. It's the quicker I get in, the quicker I'm out.
And just so you know, Ryan Makhachev is Khabib's boy. They're like, are they cousins or are they just like?
They might be cousins actually. I don't
But
know, but
Khabib,
they've been really tight since young.
Makhachev was always in Khabib's corner, and when Khabib retired, that was basically like who he trained to like continue.
That's
Yeah.
intense.
And
And
Makhachev's just been dominant.
yeah, he has one loss. It was early on in his career. He got knocked out, but I mean, since then he's just been Khabib 2.0. He's been
Yep.
a
Is that you guys
smasher.
serious?
Mhm.
I'm
Yep. He
dead
doesn't.
serious.
Do you think it's because of
Has it
this-
been like 8 years since he's lost or something
I
ridiculous?
think it's been 2 uniform changes ago for him when he got knocked out. So that's a long time.
Wasn't even the UFC.
Yeah.
what the
and,
heck? So just like being in Khabib's corner now being trained by Khabib. So
And he's fought some of the best guys too. He's not fighting scrubs.
did
No.
Khabib ever lose?
No,
Nope.
but
Do you
No.
think he's the GOAT? I always forget.
I don't.
That's a
Uh,
hard
I
conversation.
mean,
Nunez for
yeah.
sure for women, but
for women, Nunez is.
anyways,
the GOAT.
Khabib's an animal, and now this guy.
It's funny, Khabib. I
Makhachev's
saw Khabib talked about Makhachev, and they were like, because they were like, Makhachev still had to accept the fight too to Volkanovski, which is arguably a tougher opponent than Oliveira. And Khabib was like, he was like, bro, if King Kong could go down to 155, Makhachev would fight him.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
That's
Yeah.
what Khabib said.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Makhachev would try to take on John Jones if he got the opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
Would he
Yeah.
ever fight McGregor?
Makhachev, McGregor doesn't want that fight. McGregor
Yeah.
was like roasted.
After the Habib incident, I don't know if he should go back to any
He shouldn't
of those
go back,
guys.
but I think any MMA fan who's watched knows McGregor would get absolutely dominated by Makhachev, and it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even be close.
Well, that's what I feel like. I feel like that's what the vibe I get.
Nor would Makhachev ever accept that fight because McGregor. But speaking of McGregor, he just entered the drug pool today too.
Yeah.
So
He's
now
getting back in it.
Probably, I'm assuming at this point UFC 300 is going to feature McGregor, but who knows?
You
Yeah.
think they're gonna give him someone he can knock out?
I mean, it should be Michael Chandler because that's what
Yeah.
they hold the whole the whole
Ultimate Fighter was
Ultimate
based
Fighter
on.
is supposed to be. Is that you literally have a team, and at the end of the show, you guys fight. The coaches fight. That's literally the whole show, but they never fought yet. So
Yeah.
it should be who it is, but who knows?
And it seems like that too, because Chandler's been popping off on Twitter saying how things are coming, and
That
yeah,
will
maybe
not
it's
be an
test.
easy fight for McGregor.
That's
no.
good.
I mean,
That's what I
Chandler's
want.
been really active. He's fought a lot of the best guys at the top of the division, so he's ready to go. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't taken a fight in the meantime just
Yeah.
to keep stay sharp. But he
He's
knows the
another-
big money fight is McGregor.
Yeah, and Ryan, he's another fighter that's just super like he's exciting to watch. He's just gonna stand up and just go to work. Like
So he'll sweat. Like he's
Yeah.
not gonna go to the ground with McGregor. Like try
No.
to take him to the ground. He's
Mhm.
gonna stay up and fight him.
yeah.
Yeah, he might try to kick him in the face like he did Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a killer.
And then other news with that same card, 294, we have Costa out against Chimaev and stepping in Kamaru Usman. Now Usman Chimaev on that card. Just that's even a better fight too.
Yeah, that's a big money fight. I mean, Usman, former welterweight division, king of that division, ran it for a long time. Coming in to face Chimaev, who I don't think his toughest fight to date has probably been Burns, and
Yeah.
that's a little bit in the distance now. So the fact Chimaev is coming in, and obviously this is probably his toughest fight yet, I would say, against somebody who has been there, done that, worn the belt, and had the championship mentality. And Usman's still trying to get back to that point too. So this fight, and if he wins, immediately catapults him back in right into that contention talk. So
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll be interesting to see how he looks. I know he's not old, but he's getting a little old on the older side. And Chimaev was just so aggressive in there. So we'll see how that plays out. But just wanted to mention some of those exciting things that happened. And I'm sure there's other things that I'm missing, just exciting events with UFC, but just those are huge.
Yeah.
Changes.
I mean, the fact they were able to replace it and make it the card even better. I mean, usually when people drop out, the card doesn't recover that well. And,
Yeah.
they went back and got guys who are, they're paying out money for this show now. They weren't about to before, but now they're forking out some money to make it a good card. So
They are. I don't know enough about it, but I did see USADA and the UFC are done. Did you see that?
oh no, I didn't see that. They're their partnership ended?
Yeah.
Oh, so does that mean it's back to the old Wild West for the UFC?
I don't know.
Just in time for McGregor.
I'm waiting for Brock Lesnar to just make a return.
I know, right? All those saucy guys. Vitor Belfort's coming back.
What's his face? Alistair Overeem just gonna come back in
Overeem,
looking just humongous.
Yeah. I mean, there's I think Ryzen or one of them explicitly does not drug test. So, I mean, the UFC, it was good to make it clean, obviously, but I think a lot of guys got pinched and dinged during this whole thing too that weren't necessarily dirty people that just got popped for a bad supplement or that's interesting. No, I didn't.
It doesn't. I think what I read is it starts January 1st, 2024. But I don't know what. I would imagine they're going to do something. I can't imagine they're just going to let it go. But
yeah, go back to the olden days where some people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got one last thing. NCAA football this weekend, top 10 matchup. You have Oregon and Washington, number 8 and number 7. This game is going to be outrageous. You have two people who are competing for the Heisman Trophy, Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. It's going to be insane game. If you're not big on college football and you're wondering what to watch, this is going to be the game I would circle to definitely tune into. They're two guys on the rise. Oregon blew the doors off of Colorado earlier this year. Looking back, probably not that surprising, but USC also in their division. By the way, Pac-12, for all the things that they're going to be packing up and ending, this has probably been their best year in 10, 15 years. They're all their teams are mostly ranked at this point and really competitive. So another Pac-12 matchup. Watch it. It's not going to happen anymore. So get it in while it's still hot.
Do you have a pick?
I'm
You knew it was coming, Chase.
You know it was coming. I don't know. Washington's a 3-point favorite at home against Oregon. Okay. Oregon has shown time and time again they can come up and make some plays. So if Oregon wins this, I really wouldn't be surprised. I think I might back them on this. Washington throws for a ridiculous amount of yards. Penix is just his left arm hasn't popped off yet. But I mean, they're ranked a spot higher. I think Oregon's just in a good spot. I think people might be looking at Washington as a hot team, but I don't know. I'm feeling Oregon maybe outright on this one.
Oh. Is that an AFR pick? You're 2-0. Are you gonna put it on the line?
Let's lock it in. Oregon, you got it.
All right, ending the show with Chase making a pick.
Oregon money line this weekend.
Yeah,
I'll hop on.
So when they lose by 35, I'll come back and have a good reason why.
Chase, you have a better winning percentage than Ben right now. We have to ride it.
That's true.
College football's been really good this year, and I mean, there's other really good matchups coming, but this is definitely the one where I'm really excited for it. You have that fraud matchup between USC and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's just ranked right now because they want it to be a good matchup, but they are a steaming pile of dog shit that can't win a game if they had to. So we'll see. And USC has been winning, but they've been dropping in the polls. So two teams that are probably trending downward, even though Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick next year. So all you Pats fans that are pissed right now, you're probably going to get Caleb Williams anyway. So just be happy the fact you're going to get a franchise quarterback. Unless the Vikings just pull out a card and trade Kirk Cousins and totally send it in this year, I think the Patriots are probably going to end up with them because the Panthers suck, but they already have a quarterback. So Patriots, I think this might be your time to tank it, get Caleb Williams, and you're set.
All right, Chase. Well, we'll look forward to that game. I didn't have that one on my radar, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye out and kind of taking a look at that one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. This was a fun one. Lots to talk about. There'll be a lot to talk about in the upcoming weeks. And we hope to announce a special guest as well for next week. Haven't really talked about it much, but looking forward to another guest and kind of making that a regular thing on the show, that we have some different guests from some different avenues here pop in and just kind of talk a little to us. So again, we appreciate everyone listening. Stay tuned for a special announcement for a guest, and we will see you guys here next week.
Doses.
Peace.